Howdy. Look at these 5 people. 5 seemingly ordinary people. And you wouldn't know it by looking at them, but 2 of them have body parts from the 3 others. Maybe we should start from the beginning. This is the Blue Lagoon in Iceland. Anybody been there? The rest of you go. It's a wonderful place. You're going to love it. And I go there on vacation in 2014, and I'm sitting in there with my friends. I'm the one in the left wearing the mask. That's why I keep the young face. And they start telling me about a friend of theirs named Heather Cantor. Heather is on dialysis and desperately needs a kidney. This is Heather Cantor. She is a badass. Let me tell you about this woman. 15 years old, she gets diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease that kind of wrecks your life. You're tired all the time, you can't do anything. Heather's having none of it. She stays in great shape. She becomes a professional firefighter. That's how you see her here. She does that for about 10 years. She serves admirably. In 2004, she is in a fire. She's fighting a fire, and she suffers from severe dehydration. And they take her to the hospital, rush her there, and the doctor, not knowing she has lupus, gives her a shot that shuts down both kidneys permanently. It's okay though. She has an ex-stepmother, believe it or not, who decides to give her a kidney, and she has a kidney transplant, and that works, and that lasts about 8 years. 8 years into it, that kidney fails, and she goes back on dialysis. And that's where I hear about Heather. I'm sitting in the hot tub, or in the springs, and they tell me about Heather. So that night, I go back to my hotel room in Iceland, and I write Heather a letter. Dear Heather, I'd like to give you a kidney. Why? Because I love my friends, and my friends love you. And therefore, I must love you. I just haven't met you yet. I call it the transitive property of love. Well, she writes back. She says she'd be great. I go into a hospital. We get the testing done, and it turns out that we are not a match. So they said, well, would you like to be in the cross-match program? Sure, love to be in the cross-match program. What's the cross-match program? I'm going to explain that to you right now. Let's say Bob wants to give a kidney, Carol needs a kidney, and Bob wants to give Carol a kidney. But they're not a match. Now, unbeknownst to them, there's another couple, and that's Ted and Alice. Thanks for those of you who picked up that reference. And Alice wants to give Ted a kidney, but they're not a match. But it turns out that if you put them all together and you cross-match, Bob can give Ted a kidney, and Alice can give Carol a kidney, and then everything works perfectly. Now, that's called a kidney match. You can also do what's called a kidney pool, and that's with more people. And as you can see here, there are 6 people in this kidney pool, and you see donor 1 gives to recipient 2, and the kidneys sort of move around the circle. And that's 6 people. Now it can actually get bigger. The biggest kidney pool that I know of is 60 people, where they mix and match the kidneys till everyone has one. It's kind of like a 70s key party, or instead of leaving with someone else's wife, you leave with her kidney. Now the final way you can do is what we call a kidney chain. Now you see the different kidney pairs here. These are pairs of people willing to give each other kidneys, but they don't all perfectly match. And if you put them all in a kidney pool, they still don't all perfectly match. But enter what we call an altruistic donor. An altruistic donor is a very, very special person. That's a person who says they are willing to give a kidney to a complete stranger, someone they don't know. You bring them in there, you throw them into that pool, and now that person gives to a recipient, and now, as you can see, everybody gets a kidney. And that chain goes on for a very long time. So they throw us in this kidney pool, and we're having trouble finding a match. They find her a match. She's got a lot of prospective matches, but they keep trying to find me a match, and I get rejected once, twice, 3 times. They say, it's not you, it's me. Yeah, I've heard that before. So after a while, and after the prospective people go away, enter Breland Horn. Now, Breland is a very, very remarkable person. I'm going to talk about her in a second. But Breland has a cousin named Amy Ledenberger. Amy was born with cystic fibrosis. And for those of you who are familiar with it, it is an awful, awful disease. It affects your lungs. It has a very low life expectancy. When Amy is 25 years old, they decide to do a double lung transplant to save Amy's life, and they do the transplant. And Breland is so happy about this, she decides to become what I described before as an altruistic donor. She is going to give a kidney, and so they put her into the kidney pool. They put her into the kidney pool. She decides to do this. And she goes to a hospital, and she says, I would like to donate a kidney. And they said, how old are you? She says, I'm 18. And they said, you're way too young to make that decision. Go away, come back in a year. Well, during that year, unfortunately, Amy's lung transplant does not take, and she passes away. But Breland is not to be deterred. And when she's 20 years, or when she's 19 years old, she walks in back in the hospital. She says, I'd like to donate a kidney. And they said, well, do all the testing. And they do all the testing. And she's a perfect candidate to donate a kidney. And they said, you know what? You're still too young to make that decision. Come back in a year. She's having none of it at this point. She comes back when she's 20. She says, I'd like to donate a kidney. They said, we're not going to get rid of this girl. Let's let her do it. And they throw her into the pool, and they match her up with Heather. Remember my firefighter, Heather? And turns out they are the most wonderful match. They're almost like sisters. They are so close together. But they still have to find me a match before they can do it. Number 4, rejection. Number 5, rejection. Number 6, rejection. I'm really starting to take this personally. It's like dating in high school. It's just not happening. So finally, they decide that Heather's going downhill, and they decide that transplant has to happen. And they say, we're going to do the transplant, and Glenn, you're going to take care of it later. So I know a lot of you graduated Tuck owing an arm and a leg. At that point in my life, I actually owed a kidney. So they do the transplant, and I don't hear anything for a while, and all of a sudden I get a call in December. We found a match for you. Really? I've heard this before. No, we've done all the testing. This guy's perfect match. We are ready to go. Now the person they're describing is Mike Atkinson. Now Mike is the big guy in the center with a Hawaiian shirt. And that's his family. Mike has 8 children and 9 grandchildren. See, Mike's kidneys don't work, but apparently the rest of his indoor plumbing works just fine. So they are a match. Now Mike also has a person willing to donate, because that's how this works. And that person's name is Emery Fuqua. And Emery is a very close friend of the family. And it's almost like Mike's adopted daughter, because apparently 8 wasn't enough. He picked up 1 more. And when Mike's kidneys failed and he needed a donor, she stepped up immediately. But the problem was Emery's kidney is too small for Mike. So they threw them in the donor pool. Well, Mike had his testing done at San Diego Scripps Hospital, and I happened to have my testing done at San Diego Scripps Hospital. Someone put us together, and it turned out that we were a very good match. So on December 29th of 2015, those actually are my kidneys. Yes, my kidneys look like candy hearts. I like that. They took out the left one, and they put it into Mike. And at the exact same time, they took out Emery's kidney, his donor, and they sent it to a donor pair in Colorado, and they put it in. And they took out that kidney in Colorado, and they sent it to Michigan. And they took out that extra kidney in Michigan, and they sent it to Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where we lost track of it. And that is called a kidney chain. That's how that works. This is Mike and Emery a day after surgery. This is Mike, myself, and Heather 2 days after surgery. I'm about to leave the hospital. Mike's got a few more days. Much harder to receive than to give. And this is what we call the kidney chain, or as we like to call it, the chain of love. Bree, Heather, myself, Mike, and Emery. Now there's an epilogue to the story. When it's very rare for people who are in this donor pool to meet each other. They make it impossible. Because of HIPAA laws, they don't want you to know who it is. Recipients and donors can't meet. And a series of luck and people broke the law, we were able to meet. First, it's true. First, UCLA accidentally sends the medical records of Heather to Bree, wrong envelope. Bree looks at him, sees the name, gets on Facebook, finds her, Facebook's a great connector, calls her up, and they become friends long before this surgery ever takes place. Now, Mike and I have been trying to meet each other for a very long time. We're asking, they will not tell us who the other person is. And the day of the surgery, we would go, and we're still asking, and they're having none of it, except for one nurse who decided to break HIPAA laws. And she comes in to me and she says, would you like to meet your recipient? Yes, I'd love to meet my recipient. And she says, just a second. She goes away, she comes back. She says, he wants to meet you too. So I go into the other room and they take me in. And there's Mike. He's wearing his blessed cap. He's with his wife. He's with his pastor. He tells me that God has blessed me to bringing him a kidney. He's a great guy. We talked for a few minutes. I go into surgery. I have my kidney removed. That night, I'm on Facebook. And I'm posting, those of you who know me, I post, 12 times a day pretty much? And I'm posting on Facebook. And I post this right here. Kidney donation update directly from the horse's mouth. So surgery was about 10 hours ago, and I feel great. Could be the morphine button. I met recipient just before surgery. Seems like a great guy. His name is Mike. He was there with his wife and his pastor. He was wearing a beanie that said blessed. I chose not to tell him he was getting an atheist kidney. So the next day, I go to Mike's room because I want to meet this guy. We go in and I talk to him. We talked for probably 3 hours. We really hit it off. We're the same age. We're in the same business pretty much. We have the same warped sense of humor. We have a great time together. We really become close friends very fast. And he says, would you like to connect on Facebook? Sure, I'd love to connect on Facebook. So we connect. I go back to my room. I get on Facebook. And I notice that Mike is starting to like a bunch of my old posts. Uh-oh. I don't want him to see this. I don't want to get offended. So I quickly get on, and I realize he hasn't liked this post. And I'm thinking, oh, shoot. And I take out the thing about atheist kidney. I'm saved. About 30 seconds later, this post appears. Atheist no more. If you'll notice, by the way, Mike spelled the word atheist wrong, and I'm quite sure that was not unintentional. And that is how we became very, very good friends. Bree, Heather, myself, Mike, and Emery. This chain of love. We share each other's body parts. It's pretty amazing thing. A lot of people ask me, was this a really difficult thing to do? From the time they took out the kidney to 100% recovery, it was 3 weeks. It is not as difficult as it sounds. If any of you know someone who needs a kidney, step up, volunteer, give away a kidney. You don't need the other one, you really don't. If you're not ready to do that, that's fine. Do this for me. Check your driver's license. Make sure you check that little box that says organ donor. 50% of Americans are not organ donors, yet 22 people die every single day waiting for a donation. Be the person who saves somebody's life. Thank you.